Hi, so today I want to do a little video for Mighty Meat and Brian S. This is a little reaction to part of your discussion about quantum mechanics the other night. So what it is that during your discussion you talked about the double slit experiment, and in particular when firing atoms rather than light through the double slit experiment, something really rather unusual happens, which is baffling scientists, and it's to do with the fact that the atoms seem to behave differently depending on whether or not they're observed. Now, I'm not going to rehash and go over the whole experiment and explanation of it again. If you want to see that, I suggest going to Mighty Meat's video because it's great. Mighty Meat and Brian S., both great guys, good lads. Check out Mighty Meat's channel. It's his most recent stream, and he explains that particular experiment very well. So these are my thoughts, and this is what I think is going on with this. So for me, the fact that the atoms, they behave differently, they act differently depending on whether or not they're observed or detected, watched while they're doing what they're doing as part of the experiment, gives for me three possibilities. So the first possibility, which I think is the least likely, is that the atoms themselves somehow have the knowledge that they're being observed and therefore act accordingly. Now that sounds pretty far-fetched, and it probably is, but that is potentially one of the theories. That's one of the three things that could be happening here. The second option, and I think this will be sort of Mighty Meat's position, because as far as I'm aware, Mighty Meat believes in the simulation theory, that this is all some kind of simulation. Well then, in order for this double slit experiment thing to make sense, it could well be that it's just the programming. The programming of the simulation is such that if atom is being observed, then this. It's just an if-then statement. If atom going through the experiment is not being observed, it behaves in a certain way. If atom is being observed or detected, it acts in such and such a way. So that could easily be explained in programming if we are indeed in some kind of simulation. And the third option is more my point of view, because I personally am a creationist. I do believe that there is a creator, a higher intelligence that has created us and the universe and everything within it. In my opinion, the creator would have the knowledge of whether the atoms are being observed or detected or not, and as such can also influence their behavior. So in other words, this intelligent creator or God, whatever label you want to put on it, would be the one that would be influencing the atoms, saying, okay, you're not being observed, you will work in such and such a way, you will act in such a way, and no, you are being detected or observed, you will now act in the other way. Now, if you're new to this and you're just hearing me talk about these things and thinking, what on earth is this weird ginger guy talking about, because it sounds so crazy, well, it really does sound that crazy, but it's real. Check out the double slit experiment. It is wild. It kind of blows your mind, the fact that the atoms will act differently depending on whether or not they're being observed or not observed. It's very strange. Very, very strange. Even stranger than me and my dancing. So let's do a quick recap here. In my opinion, we have the three options. The first is that the atoms themselves know what's going on and they change their behavior accordingly. Second is that we're in a simulation and it is just the programming of the simulation that the atoms will act differently depending on whether or not they're being observed. And the third is that there is some kind of God or creator who is the one that is in control of these things and makes the atoms to behave in a certain way or not, depending on whether they're being observed or not. There may be other options. If you've got a fourth option, please, by all means, pop it in the comments. Tell me what your thoughts are. For me, I can see those kind of three possibilities of being the three most feasible ones of what's going on here. So next, we've got to move on to which do I think is most likely. So the first one about the atoms having the knowledge themselves, I think that's pretty unlikely. Not going to fully disregard it, because to fully disregard anything without investigation is not scientific, and it's the kind of thing that we can't quite really observe yet. We haven't got the equipment to properly detect and test these things. So that puts me in a position where it's the other two options that I think are more likely, either the simulation theory or the we are created by a creator theory, and those are the two. Now, on face value, I would give them sort of maybe equal sort of merit in terms of feasibility. However, the reason I edge towards slightly more probability of being the creator is that if we go with this simulation theory, it only kicks the can down the road a little bit about the bigger question, because it's like, okay, let's say we are in a simulation, kind of like a matrix type thing. It's just all pre-programmed, or it's all programmed and we are part of a simulation. If that's the case, who is the one who set the simulation up? What is that intelligence? Who or what is it that created the simulation? And therefore, and were they always there, or again, were they a created thing? And so on and so forth. It kicks the can down the road in terms of a beginning and a creation. Whereas my opinion that basically there is a creator, an intelligent creator who created the universe, and that is the one who is influencing the atoms depending on whether or not they're being observed in the experiment. That to me just makes a little bit slight more logical sense than we're in the simulation. Not fully, I'm not discounting the simulation theory. I think it's a good theory that you can't really disprove either. But just me personally, I think it's more likely the creator option. And if we do go by the simulation theory, shout out to Mighty Meat, that's his one. Then I still think that it leaves more questions and it kicks the can down the road a little bit in terms of, okay, then where did that thing that made the simulation come from? It still doesn't answer that question. And some people might say to me, but okay, if you've got a creator, you've got the same problem. Who created that? Where did that come from? But that goes more into the sort of deeper sort of philosophy stuff of, if there's a beginning for a creator, the creator has to be beyond the realms of space, time, and matter in order to create space, time, and matter. That's where our minds get a little bit blown because we're a bit limited in the way we can think, and that in itself actually strengthens Mighty Meat's position of the simulation theory, because if somebody's creating a simulation, a bit like a computer type simulation, they can set the limits and the boundaries as to what the things in it can comprehend, or set barriers that you can't escape. A bit like in a computer game, if you've got like a set area and boundary and you can't get past it, unless you find a way of breaking it from within, which I don't think is very likely. I'm starting to waffle a little bit, but yeah, those are my three things. So the atoms know know themselves that they're being observed and act accordingly somehow, or we're in a simulation and the programming is just set up that if this then that. That would make sense too. Or the third one, there is a creator who designed everything, and the creator says it will act in this way if it's observed, and it will act in this way if it's not observed. Does that mean I get a Nobel Prize? Have I answered the question? Well, probably not. I don't think so. But yeah, let me know what you think. Those are my thoughts on the double slit experiment, in particular the one with the atoms used, and whether or not they are detected or observed, and how it changes the result of the experiment. I would love to know what any of you out there have to say about that. And if you've got no idea what I'm talking about, I would suggest watching Mighty Meat's stream, because it's really good. With Brian, and Brian's a great guy as well. So catch you all on another video some other time. Bye now.